I've really had the privilege of working with Stephen and Brian for the past, I don't know, month or so?
Yeah, a few months.
They're just doing an amazing job, and the content is just really exciting. Just to reiterate something that was mentioned, this is a class you want to pull your phone out for. And there will be instructions, but it will be interactive, and I will get out of the way and leave it over to you guys.
Thank you, Kim. How's everybody doing today? I'm Stephen Marcellino with Lippolis Electric out of New York. I'm the Vice President of Sales with our Technical Services Division, and I've been with Lippolis Electric for about the past 10 years, scaling through different areas of the business, and I kind of found my spot in the sales role, took it, ran with it, and capitalized with social media.
I'm Brandon Springer from United Mechanical in Oklahoma City. I was in the field for 10 years, and long story short, I was approached by management and said, hey, there's a maintenance sales opportunity that might be available. And so that was a big leap of faith for me because I'm the chiller guy, the HVAC guy, right? So I took the jump into maintenance sales and have been in that almost 2 years next month. So big change, big transition. I think there's a session called Who Moved My Cheese that's coming up. That's kind of what I learned was, hey, life changes, you got to adapt. So, I love the theme that's been going on with some of these sessions about human behavior. We've had some neuroscience elements. Bill Benjamin did a great job. Who was in that class, by the way? Okay, so several, about half. So I'm not the expert in that, but one thing I want to remind us is that, this is about the human connection. And hopefully we're not going to be like the poor guys yesterday, that PowerPoint snafu, right? So yeah, we're going to go into social media and how to integrate that with sales, with business, drive business revenue, all the sexy terms we like to say, but what I want to remind you of is that human connection, because that's the whole point, right? And so Stephen's going to really dive into this because he's really the subject matter expert. He has the marketing background. So we're going to dive into the content creation, what that looks like, how to make it your own. Like my boss always tells me, you got to make your own approach. We're trying to do one thing, but you got to make it fit for you and work for you, right? So what's this all about? Again, the human connection, thinking not so much internally in what I want to say, what I want to show, but you're obviously trying to put that out there for the other person to connect to them. So Stephen, let's dive into the content creation. Let's start at the front side with strategy. What should I be thinking about for content?
Yeah, so again, thank you everybody for joining us today. I was expecting a better turnout, but this will do. No, listen, so, you got to keep it simple. When you get into social media, you have this big overbearing feeling that, I need a camera crew, I need, MTV, and I need all these different bells and whistles to make it happen. That's not the case. It starts with strategy. So what you want to do is, when you start strategizing anything, a business plan, buying a new home, financial strategies, whatever it is, everything that is successful in life has a good process and procedure behind it. So the beginning stages of social media content creation strategy starts with planning your frequency. So what you want to do is decide, am I going to post once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week? Do I want to post 52 posts in a year? Do I want to post, 100 posts in a year? Whatever your frequency decision is, you want your content vault, I like to call it, to be able to support your frequency. So what you're going to do is, if you're going to post 52 times a year, and your plan is to post 1 post a week, you don't want to start coming out of the gate by having no content created and you feel the need to create a piece of content every single week like you're trying to submit a sealed bid, because nobody likes that feeling in this room, right? So what you want to do is develop a content vault before you even start posting with your frequency. Shoot 20 pieces of content before you even put your first post up, because now you have 20 weeks of posting planned for yourself already, and you have no stress. And then once you get down to 10 pieces of content, you replenish your content vault.
So you're saying don't do like the shotgun approach where you just throw it all out there and man, I forgot for 14, 15 days and now I'm throwing stuff back out. You're saying be consistent, whatever the cadence.
100%.
Just be consistent, right?
100%, yeah. Consistency is key. You don't need to put 100 posts up a week and, feel like you have to put up a whole bunch of different pieces of content to be successful. When you're doing this, like Brandon just said, consistency is key. If you start to develop a rhythm behind your content, your pieces of information that you're putting out there are going to get caught in the LinkedIn algorithm. Now, I'm going to focus on LinkedIn today because we have a lot of professionals in the room. But if you want to also develop something called an omnipresence approach, that's using multiple social media platforms to digitally market your company, like a TikTok, a LinkedIn, an Instagram, whatever social media platform you use. So for the people that may not be on LinkedIn, but they're on Instagram, you're always being seen on a platform. So there's the omni-channel approach, there's consistency, there's having a content vault developed, and there's the frequency in which you're going to post your content around your strategy to execute so your target demographic, which is the people that you would like to see your information, can see your information on a consistent basis and know when to expect that information to be put out for the viewers to see.
But besides the consistent basis, just out of curiosity, what types of content should I be putting out there?
Yeah, so types of content, everybody in this room is more or less a subject matter expert, whether you're on the mechanical side or the electrical side. So some of the simpler content to develop would be simple educational content about what's infrared testing, how often should I change my air filters in my facility, what's the impact if a crack unit goes down in a data center? What happens if I'm not performing maintenance on my switchgear every 3 to 5 years? How can that affect the facility? So you almost parlay it, like the way I have my phone set up there in the center of the room to keep it simple for everybody. All you need to do is prop your phone up on your desk like that and record a 30-second clip of yourself just talking about what you know. So that's one piece of content, the educational piece. Then you could also post photos or videos of your company handling philanthropic events like golf outings, donations, fundraising events, highlighting employee achievements. If somebody gets promoted, if somebody wins a diamond award, if somebody's making a lateral move within the company to a new division, announce that and make people aware so they know who's who in your company. You could also post videos of your technicians working. We like to go on our job sites, take some iPhone videos of our techs working in the field, before and after, taking infrared images on the TEG side, whatever that may look like. And Lippolis Electric in 2024 actually took it to the next level, and we did launch the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, which has opened up the floodgates for the opportunities we have for content to educate and also motivate and entertain the people that are in and outside of our industry.
I love that. And before we get into the social media networking, a couple of the things you're talking about, especially tech, I think yesterday Bill Benjamin had this with like the intellectual, emotional, and the technical side. So you could almost use that technical as a what if or like a consequence question. Or it's too late. Here's what happened when they didn't do X, Y, Z, and then this happened.
Correct.
I kind of trigger that curiosity. That makes sense. So going to social media networking, there's my little light bulb. So
Go back one.
Go back one more.
No, back a page. So real quick.
Hit the hashtags? Oh, he wants to hit the hashtags.
Yeah, I want to do the hashtags. So
he's a cool guy.
When I asked everybody to come in the room, I don't know if you listened to my directions. Me personally, I don't follow directions too well, so I may not have done it myself if I was in the crowd. But I asked everybody to follow myself and Brandon. So if everybody could just pull out their phones real quick and look at the most recent video Brandon and I had put on LinkedIn, specifically for this session, and you can see the way the caption was written, the way the hashtags were utilized, and the collaboration. So Brandon and I shot that video together, we collaborated, and Brandon reshared that to his network. And my company reshared it, a couple of my coworkers reshared it, and other people in this room may have reshared it, so that's all a collaborative effort. Now, when we collaborate with each other, or when we collaborate with maybe businesses we work with, or other trades in our area, we are now opening up the opportunity for other potential prospects or customers that you may not have had the opportunity to reach to see your business through their network. So it kind of parlays your overall audience when you collaborate with other individuals in your industry, in your company, or in your client base, and their network will be able to see the content you're putting up into the world.
Once again, we're trying to harness the power of social media.
Correct.
So you gotta think big. I mean, if I'm thinking about this level, I need to step back a second. It's like the spider web, right?
Correct.
Multiple limbs and twigs and branches off the tree.
And if you're not following us, follow us on LinkedIn.
He's not getting paid to say that. Social media networking. So here's where I struggle personally, because once you start thinking about social media, especially LinkedIn with, I think someone mentioned yesterday, Jared, I think his name was, about Sales Navigator. You use Sales Navigator.
No.
I don't yet, probably going to. So like, what should I be doing? How do I use it as a tool, not just like Facebook, like the liking, the commenting, the sharing?
Yes.
Why would I do that?
Yeah, so what you want to do, it's really simple, and this kind of goes back to the whole collaborative effort. So when you like, comment, and share, you're using social media for what it is. You have to look at social media as a digital networking platform. It's not a dating website. It's not, whatever perception of social media people have drummed up in their minds to think what it is. The real purpose at the core of social media is to connect with other like-minded individuals or individuals that have interest in what you're talking about, so you can have a conversation with them. It's the same idea as walking into a networking event and shaking someone's hand and saying, I'm Stephen Marcellino, it is nice to meet you. So ways you can digitally shake somebody's hand are by liking, sharing, and commenting on another individual's content, specifically a prospect. If you're trying to get in touch with somebody and you're hitting walls and you have no idea how to get in touch with them, aside from throwing rocks outside of their window and blasting 80s love music on your shoulder with a boombox, you can like, comment, and share on their content to make them aware, like, hey, I'm Stephen Marcellino, or I'm Carmine Lippolis, or I'm Anthony Jabor, or I'm Brandon Springer, and I want to speak to you. And
it's almost like a soft touch, right?
100%.
We use the word soft touch in sales.
That's
keeping
exactly what it
that
is.
awareness up. I like that. That makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that goes into the next portion of this, where utilizing effective messaging. What does that mean? Am I writing them a love letter, or you get those 3 a.m. messages, the in-mail messages on LinkedIn from the insurance guy that's trying to sell you corporate assurance, and you're like, dude, get out of my inbox, I'm not buying. And
so don't be one of those guys that just
don't. Yeah,
hey, you haven't replied to my 4th message, making sure you're still breathing, right?
Definitely
I get those all
do
the time,
not
man,
be
my
one of
inbox.
those guys, because I can promise you now you will get shut down. So for me, what an effective LinkedIn message looks like, write this down. It is very simple, and it's very effective, and it's tried and true. Hi, I am Stephen Marcellino. I work with Lippolis Electric. I notice we both work in the engineering field, and I think it would be beneficial to be a part of each other's networks. And then from there, you could say, let's get a cup of coffee next week. Let's get on a quick 15-minute phone call so we can talk with each other, whatever you do to put that call to action into play. That's how you can really open that up. And by utilizing that effective messaging strategy, and what I'm going to go into next is how to implement this into a sales cadence, because this goes far beyond just LinkedIn. I have closed DHL International with this tactic, a local company called Rose Associates who manages over 300 buildings in the New York City area, the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and one of the world's largest data communications companies. So I'm not just saying these things because I like to, be a social media influencer. I'm trying to be, some guy with 1 million followers. I'm up here today because this works. And what we're doing with social media is going to shape the future of how we do business, whether everybody in this room likes it or not. That's the hard facts of what we're doing today. There's 9 billion daily users on social media every day.
It's crazy.
So with that, my sales cadence that we use LinkedIn as a part of in the 7-step process is on day 1.
Now hang on, before he goes into this, if you're falling asleep, right? Because most of us in here, let's face it, we might take some notes and go back home. What he's about to share with you, he's actually used and actually brought business to Lippolis, and he's helped a lot of people.
Yep.
So if you have a pen and paper and you care at all, I would at least write this cadence down. Again, you can shape how it works for you, but what he's about to share with you may be important.
Yeah, so the first step of the cadence is a LinkedIn contact point. Now, just like cold calling, not everybody's gonna have a LinkedIn, But more often than not in this world, everybody has a LinkedIn page at this point on a professional
It's like
level.
a business Facebook.
Correct.
Yeah.
So on day one, it's a LinkedIn interaction plus a cold call. Day two is cold email number one. Day three is an additional cold call. Day four, you're gonna send another LinkedIn interaction, like, comment, share, effective message. Day five, another email. Day six, cold call. And day seven, get out of your office and start canvassing. Start knocking on those doors. And all of these points together are not all related to social media. And that's my biggest message today is, at Lippolis, we're not just sitting behind our desk sending LinkedIn interactions. Yeah. We are using every single sales tool that we have at our disposal to close business and increase revenue for our organization to make sure everybody's working. So that's the cadence. If anybody has any questions about the cadence or how it's implemented, I'm more than happy to speak with you. I don't have enough time to dive into every single step of it, but that is the process behind how we raise our business development and new business numbers from a cold outreach perspective.
I love it. Yeah, and if anyone has questions, they can message you, right? Get that cadence.
Correct.
I think you gave me that template.
Yeah, message me on LinkedIn.
So I want to go back to, you talk about effective messaging. Because here's one thing that bothers me, but also on the flip side, one thing I was guilty of, former technician, I never had a sales job. So I think it's very natural for the human being to want to pitch the product, want to push it. Man, can I show you my flip book, my demo? And all of a sudden you're into financial analysis and you know zero of their problems. So I knew that I needed to step back a little bit and go, okay, how do I sound like? When someone looks at me, what do they see? Not what I think in my head. So talk to us for a second about being authentic, not sounding salesy like everybody else, because we don't want to seem like every other salesperson. We want to differentiate ourselves, right?
Yeah, so my big belief on sales is I don't sell, I develop relationships. And relationships is a big word, in our franchise, because I think we look at ourselves as consultants and not salespeople. And keeping it authentic is key. Now, my big take on authenticity is humility and vulnerability. If you're not willing to be humble and vulnerable when developing your content, it's going to take away that authentic factor, my apologies, and it's going to make you seem like you just have a virtual assistant doing all of your content creation and putting up, corporate content, which there's no problem with that. But if you want to develop your personal brand and your company's brand, which we're going to get to on the next slide, you have to be authentic. And now, what that means is all the types of content that I mentioned before that can be created give you that opportunity to create it yourself. Now, I'm not saying go out there and start doing TikTok dances, with an infrared camera in your hand or with like an arc flash suit on. I mean, listen, but
don't twerk on your LinkedIn, please.
Yeah, don't twerk on your. That won't get you too far.
It'd be trouble.
But in all honesty, if getting on your LinkedIn page, if for the tech side, and talking about what is an arc flash with an arc flash suit on, that's going to catch a lot of people's eyes. Yeah. That's authentic. And when I use the word vulnerable, I'm not saying you have to get on and start crying, but show a little bit of yourself. Who are you? Who is the person that you want people to know and perceive you as a businessman and a human? Because at the end of the day, people buy from people, and that's just a sheer fact. And what you can do is when you get to that stage where you're trying to put your content plan together, you have to ask yourself too, and this is a kind of internal and external battle I've been having with my LinkedIn, is do I want to show a little bit more about who Stephen Marcellino is? Posting a picture with my son fishing, out to dinner with friends and family. And I think that LinkedIn is moving in a direction where a lot of the successful users of the platform are showing bits and pieces of that personal life. So when they want to connect with a client, they could say, oh, wow, look, Stephen fishes. Yeah. Stephen might not be that good, but he plays golf. He dresses well, though. Stephen has a family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you could mix those bits and pieces of your personal life in to your professional content, not only does it increase the content vault and the frequency, but now people are getting to know, who am I dealing with? Who am I allowing into my building, into my house?
Building trust is a long game,
Yep.
and you can't build trust if they don't know who you are. So like,
Correct.
kind of build familiarity, establish that common human connection, right?
So Brandon, I'm going to ask you a question now. You've been asking me a lot of questions. I feel like I'm getting interrogated, but
I'm good at that.
how has this worked for you? Because I know a couple months ago, you know, we tried the sales cadence, and I don't want you to get too crazy here, but tell the people, what has your success been on the methods that I'm talking about today?
Sure. And before that, you know, I kind of dabbled in it. I think I used an app that I think most of you know was owned by a company, and there was a ban and all that. So I had to kind of switch up my strategy. So as we were talking about this, I thought, okay, let me try this out. You know, I kind of looked at the approach like, that's a lot, man. But once again, content vault, you got to start from the beginning. So I played with it a little bit, and what I found interesting was I was finding people that were part of a prospect, or, you know, we talk about our ICP, a building I would like to contact with. And so I got a meeting simply by talking to 5, 6 other people and then go to the building. So it's kind of like you're saying with branching out, you're networking.
And how did the sales cadence work for you? The 7-step process?
What's hilarious is you probably won't get through the whole 5 to 7 steps before you're either making a connection, booking a meeting. And that's the beauty of it, because if you're doing this, you know, 10, 15 times over, you're not going to have to go through that whole cadence. Correct. Just for a result, right?
And that's one thing before we go to the next slide I want to throw out there. When you do the sales cadence, if you start on day 1 and you don't do day 2 until, you know, let's say you start on Monday is day 1 and Wednesday you decide to do day 2, guess what? You're back on day 1. That sales cadence is meant to be done 7 days in a row. If you get success on the 3rd day, you stop the sales cadence and pursue now into your sales process. Taking a market qualified lead to a sales qualified lead. That's the whole purpose of the sales cadence.
Brand awareness, you had touched on that earlier on. You know, for us at United Mechanical, we don't do, and really, frankly, in our industry, we got to be careful with this, as you know. We're not the heat and air shop with the billboard or the TV commercials. You know, we're big on qualifying. We're taught to qualify. So for us, in my role specifically, I'm thinking as a marketer, I'm thinking as a business, like, okay, how do I build that brand awareness? So me as one individual, how might I build that brand awareness for the company?
Yeah, so everything we do, and I'm going to keep it on myself at Lippolis Electric, is about the brand. The perception of it, the quality of work, our employees that work for us, the safety that we implement before our men go out into the field. It's all about the brand.
Why is that so important, though?
And it's important because when you're utilizing social media for brand awareness, what you're doing is you're building a brand for the future. You're not building just today and tomorrow. You're leaving behind a digital legacy of who was Stephen Marcellino, who was Lippolis Electric, who was Carmine Lippolis, and all the, you know, employees that we're grateful to have working for us. Who are these people and what kind of projects are they doing and how are they helping their community? And that's the kind of brand awareness that everybody in this room should be looking to build for their own company, is putting your brand out there and portraying that image of what you do, who you are, and how you impact those around you based on, you know, from philanthropy to successful project completions to getting estimates out on time, safety, community events, you know, whatever it may be, out at networking events. And all you're doing is utilizing social media as that platform to raise that brand awareness. And the best part about it is, as long as there's no bans or anything of that nature, you're leaving a digital footprint behind forever for people to see. And it's important too, when you implement the sales cadence and all the other steps that I had mentioned in the slides prior, when people go to research who you are, they can see your brand front and center on your LinkedIn page, or if they type your name in on Google, your content comes up and everybody already knows everything about you. And 90% of the sales complete at that point.
So before we get into some questions, because I want to hear what people have to say about what they think, let's say I leave this conference. I don't implement this, or I kind of try it for a little bit, and the whole year passes by. We're at next year's conference, and I've done nothing. Why is it urgent for me to do something now versus wait down the road?
Yeah, so it's urgent for you to do it now because I am a firm believer that our industry is very behind on social media as a whole. And I know for a fact in my market, there are competitors that we compete with on a daily basis that are not utilizing social media. So if they decide to start today, they look at my LinkedIn page or our company's LinkedIn page and say, oh wow, I'm gonna copy every piece of content Lippolis has put up on the internet. Well, good luck, I'm 5 years ahead of you already. Yeah. We're 5 years ahead of you already. So when you exhaust every single piece of content and idea you have because you thought you were gonna copy me, once you catch up to me, I'm gonna be 10 years ahead of you, 15 years ahead of you. And that's why I'm up here talking today, is to make sure that every single person in this room gets ahead of their competitors and starts utilizing these tools before your competitors do. Because what's gonna happen is if one of the competitors in your local market decides to take up all the digital market share of social media for your territory, they're ahead of you. Now you're the one that's fighting to get ahead of them, and it's tough. And it's very important to stay ahead of the curve, and that's how this all funnels back to lead generation. This is a tool for lead generation and drumming up the opportunities to get new business in through the door. And apart from social media, a couple pieces of technology we utilize are like Zoom Info and HubSpot. And overall network expansion. I don't think I really need to dive into network expansion because everything I discussed today is, it all feeds back to lead generation and network expansion. And that's kind of the ribbon on top of the present right there. And I don't want to waste any more time speaking up here because I know we don't have too much time left. But I would love to open this up for questions and hear some feedback from the crowd. Thank you all.
Yeah, Kim's going to be the runner, and be vulnerable, guys. I mean, let's be real. The older generations, you have to respect where they're at in this because this is a huge change. For me personally, I'm a traditional guy. I really don't care about social media, but I'm trying to be more open-minded, right? Because if the game changes and I don't change, who has the problem? I do, because I didn't change. So Kim, if you got somebody. Carmine's ready?
Oh, man.
This is going to be good. I'm letting you take this
already.
Hey, great job, guys.
Thank you.
Stephen, why don't you talk a little bit about, I know in the Tech Network, what we did was we made sure that all the network partners were on the same page and they were, involved and, commenting to each other, the right hashtags. I don't think Link is doing that. So why don't you talk about how we kind of work together as a group and we got everybody on the same page in the Tech Network?
Yeah, I think what we did in the Tech Network, and there was a lot of wonderful organizations, I can't even name them all on the top of my head right now, that got involved about 1.5 years ago after last year's Con Ed. And we created what was called engagement pods with each other. And we put an email thread together with about 20, 30 principals, MSRs, ops coordinators, whoever it may have been. And I went through various, call it training sessions on how to utilize these tools and how we can interact with each other as a network, because there's no reason that we have an international presence that everyone in this room isn't conquering LinkedIn to the point where other industries are looking at our content and saying, wow, these people are really dominating the market share. There's thousands of people in this network. So if we all came together between Link and Tag, I mean, we're a force to be reckoned with in every single person's individual market. So that's a conversation I could have with the team at ABM maybe on how we implement this to get that connection solidified for a unified social media strategy.
Right now, I have a lot of people that I went to school with following me on LinkedIn or I'm connected with, and coworkers and my family. So if I start posting, it feels like my mom's gonna like it, and some of my coworkers are gonna like it. How do I get to the point where there are people who I actually can bring value to and want to do business with? How am I connected with them in a way that doesn't feel like, oh, if I can't do this guy's invitation?
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to just getting started. Don't overthink it. You got to just bringing it back to that first slide, develop that content vault and stay consistent. Like I said, I've been doing this for the past 5 years. The first year of doing this, I was actually looking back at my phone reminiscing before I started. The content we were creating was so cheesy, you know, compared to what we're doing now, but we did it and we put it up and we got our name out there.
It shows your growth.
It shows growth.
Yeah,
it shows
absolutely.
growth, and it shows that you're trying, because another thing, your mother's always going to be another #1 fan. So, you know, that like might be that one like that gets you to the 10,000 likes, because you don't know who's a part of her network. So,
Good point. Very good.
you know, so really at the end of the day, don't worry about don't worry about how many people are viewing it, but worry about who's viewing it. And get more calculated with who you're following and who you're interacting with on the back end. And implement the sales cadence, because that's going to tie it all together for you.
A couple more. We're doing great on time. You guys, you don't want lunch that bad, right? Go ahead around here. Oh, you know this guy.
So I kind of have a two-part question.
Of course you do.
One, would you recommend, if I had never posted anything on social media, to start a new page and kind of dedicate it to like a business side of it, or add on to what I've already had where it's not so much revolved around business? And then two, kind of just for anybody who hasn't started, what would be the first thing you tell me to do when I leave this to kind of get started to the content vault? Would it be like brainstorming ideas, something along that?
So the first thing I'd recommend you to do is take a picture with me and Brandon, post a photo of us at Con Ed and how informative this conversation was, and tag us in it. And you can start there. But who
Who do you work for, man? These New Yorker guys, man, I don't know about them. You know?
I would also recommend #mom too.
Hashtag mom.
Yeah, you have to have
Anthony's got one.
So real quick, because I just want to touch on another part of your question, Anthony, is, you know, you just got, like you said, what's that first piece of content? I think you really got to determine what you want people to know about you and about your business. And I think the easiest path for people to take here is educate. Don't worry about people stealing the secret sauce, because no one's stealing it from us. The #1 business people in the world give away their secrets on social media because the clients that they're securing see them first as the subject matter expert and don't even try and level out any of your competitors at that point. And creating a new page dedicated to business is detrimental to your personal brand and your business brand. Let your company create a company LinkedIn platform that handles the business. You, Anthony Jabor, Jordan, Josh Carmine, Brandon, Kim, everybody in here should have their own personal LinkedIn page that they're talking about their mission on.
So hashtags. Why are they important? How many should you have in your post? Sometimes I see there's like 10 or 15.
Yeah. So
What do
hashtag.
they really do?
So I didn't really want to get too technical
Great
today.
question, Anthony.
That is a great question. I didn't want to get too technical in the PowerPoint, but I'm happy you asked. So
You got time, man.
what a hashtag does, think about it as search engine optimization for your content. Now, when we write content for our website, blog posts, updating our service offerings, we run everything through an SEO check to make sure everything has green SEO. Now, what that does is that increases your likelihood of being seen on the internet. So when you do an SEO check on a hashtag, it's actually pretty simple. I know I'm throwing out some marketing terms right now, but all you need to do is type in or search the hashtag you want to use. Make sure it has at least 1,000 or more followers, because anything less than that is going to get drowned out in the LinkedIn algorithm. And you don't want to utilize any more than like 5 to 8 hashtags. Once you start watering it down, you're hashtagging so much stuff, you're canceling out the other hashtags and the SEO that the hashtags carry, because they're just, button heads with each other.
So if you're not careful, you can actually dilute yourself.
Correct.
And it hurts you. Okay, that makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah.
How do you check that? Like you said, check, you put it in Google, hashtag HVAC?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happens is with the hashtags, when you check them, you can either search them in the search bar as if you were searching a person, and some of the hashtags I like to use, if you guys want to write this down related to our industries, are hashtag property management, hashtag facility management, hashtag engineering, hashtag safety, and hashtag electrical or hashtag HVAC. These are all great hashtags that you can utilize consistently.
Hi, Stephen. I'm Patricia from Mechanical Systems.
Hello.
And when you responded back to, I think, Anthony on the end. You called him by name. Did you catch his name when he first introduced himself, or did you know Anthony before?
No, and he's laughing now. Anthony and I are co-workers. He's he's one of my killer MSRs on our team at
I
Lippolis.
see, okay. I was just wondering because that personal connection is important. And
Correct.
if you're one of those people that you do that. And I noticed when you mentioned your hashtag, you didn't mention employer of choice. Do you ever commingle with some of the other areas in your company that are not related to sales or to a product or service?
Yeah, I think I fully embody the Lippolis Electric brand, kind of going back to the brand awareness thing in my day-to-day pitch, so to speak, because it's important for our clients and our prospects to know everything we can do. Because let's face it, we might not always get in the door and do infrared testing right out of the gate. It might be the service call at 1 o'clock in the morning where you answer your phone and go and fix a trip breaker or respond to an emergency for that person to say, I want these people in my building year round, or changing that light bulb, or helping somebody with an LED retrofit or a new little panel on the wall. So I like everybody to know everything about our company through social media, apart from what just we do here in our services.
Are you guys providing your teams with content, like aside from what your business profile is posting, or are you expecting them to source their own content, a little mix of both?
Yeah, I think, myself and Michelle Parnillo, our director of marketing, we take a very aggressive approach on content creation from all angles. We engage with other managers throughout the company that are on job sites and throughout different areas of our organization, just to take simple job site photos and different things. But I do a lot of the content creation for Lippolis Electric. So any piece of content I make, I'm branding for the company. So at any point in time, if anyone in our organization wanted to utilize that content to put on their LinkedIn page, they're more than welcome to. And then anything that I want to use as a personally branded piece of information, it's usually a video of myself. But any of the other, Lippolis-wide content is photos of our technicians working, employee recognition, videos of our men on site, pictures of our vans, and you could really kind of diversify it that way.
So you were talking about, sorry about that, we're talking about brand awareness. So everything that you've mentioned so far, I've been doing for the last 4 years on our company LinkedIn pages, using all hashtags, everything like that. So I was brought into working in a new market for our company. So in our headquarters, we've been in that area for 100 years. People know our name. I'm in a metro area now, and people have no idea who we are. So when you're talking about brand awareness and building it on LinkedIn, trying to gain followers, things like that, are you boosting posts? Have you had the situation where you had to go into a new area to gain brand awareness so people know?
Yeah, so that's a good question for myself especially, because we're dealing with New York City. There's millions of people in our market. There's thousands of buildings, and even with the output that we're doing on a daily basis, we're probably only, known a fraction, to be completely honest. I'd be egotistical to say that every single person in the city knows who we are, although we have a very big brand name. Aside from our TEG franchise, we build a lot of super towers in Manhattan and whatnot, so we get out that way. But, at the end of the day, what you need to do is you need to focus on neighborhoods and streets within the metropolitan area and geographically target businesses based on a tactical marketing plan. That's the real approach behind it. And if you want to talk a little bit more about that between the two of us, I'm more than happy to speak with you, because it's a very technical, strategic, plan that you need to put together if you really want to get into the nitty gritty. Like, if I want to target buildings on, 3rd Avenue, Manhattan, I'm going to figure out every single business on that street. I'm going to follow their businesses. I'm going to follow their employees. I'm going to, drop geotags on my content of that specific street and of those organizations that I want to target. And I'm going to dissect New York City street by street, block by block. I hope that helps.
Already taking
All right, excellent. I'll check it out. Thank you very much.
Could you do me a favor? I think one of the things that I thought was so valuable in all of our conversations, you mentioned it already, but could you repeat the cadence, the day-to-day cadence one more time?
Yeah, that's not a problem. So the day-by-day cadence, just to run it back one more time, is a LinkedIn connection or LinkedIn interaction if you're already following your prospect or suspect, followed by a phone call that same day. So it's LinkedIn connection plus a phone call, day 1. Day 2 is going to be cold email number 1. Day 3 is going to be an additional phone follow-up. Day 4 is going to be LinkedIn interaction plus effective message. Day 5 is going to be another email, cold email number 2. And day 6 is going to be an additional cold call. And day 7, get your marketing folders ready and start knocking on doors.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And just so everybody knows, to throw out there, sorry Jason, I don't mean to cut you off. I love hearing you speak, so I want to hear what you're going to say. But with that cadence, the emails and calls are interchangeable. Like if you want to call on day 2 opposed to email, so to speak, kind of thing. So you don't have to stick to it, tier by tier, but make sure that structure stays within itself and don't, go too crazy outside of it.
Okay, hi, it's Jason Monaghan from the franchising group. Stephen and I regularly connect on LinkedIn. I've also taken part in the Beyond the Blueprint podcast not too long ago. On content, the marketing guys within the franchising group regularly send out the monthly top 7.
Yep.
So if you're struggling for content, there's always something interesting in there. It could be around compliance, or it could be that there's a national safety day or something.
Correct.
Like that. So there's always something that you can grab. And the other thing, picking up on the point about localizing the content, you can search for news items that are relevant to a particular district or a particular part of the town that you live in. You can search for on news reports and things like that, and share relevant content from the news as well. So things like that.
That's a good point right there, actually, Jason. Thank you for touching on that. That is a major piece of content that I apologize for not touching on.
Shout out to Jeremy, because Jeremy, he gets those, and I get them in my inbox. So the way we have it set up for United Mechanical is, and you need to touch on this too, about the, scheduling it out. So it's populating that content out there. I'm talking about like the link or tag content. You can get that scheduled. Anything you can schedule ahead of time, right?
100%.
Yeah.
So everything could be scheduled. There are features within LinkedIn where, if you are, we're all very busy in here, and we all can agree that social media is a job in itself, but it's a very lucrative, tool to use. But if you want to schedule your content out, and this goes back to the content vault, for 10 weeks, you could put everything into LinkedIn, select the day and time you want it to go up. If you want a piece of content to go up every Wednesday at 7 p.m., that's when our podcast airs. You can do that. So every Wednesday at 7 p.m., a piece of content will be put out on the internet. And one thing I did want to just throw out there, we do utilize the ABM content as well, because that goes back to that educational piece. It might not be a video or a photo of yourself, but it's an educational infographic or piece of information that is very important for the people in our industry that may need to know about what we're doing. They can use, and there's about 5 or 6 pieces of content that are released every month, videos every once in a while, which are great. And I highly recommend, if you do need a starting point, like Anthony said, you could turn to those pieces of content simply to start, and then start throwing that authentic flair into your content strategy.
Last one? Last
Stephen,
one,
you
come on.
mentioned geotags. Do you do geofencing as well?
Can't really geofence on social media. The term is geotagging. We do use geofence to make sure that our men are within their working boundaries, but geotagging is the way we go with the social media, and it's fairly simple to utilize. All you have to do is just type in the area that you would like that piece of content to kind of be more visible in. But if you are going to tag a city, like if you're going to just tag New York City or Atlanta, Georgia, or Montreal, Canada, that's so broad that it's not going to actually be effective. You want to figure out, like I mentioned before, a specific town or street or borough within that geotag when tagging that piece of content. Because at that point, if you tag a city that has millions of people in it, you might as well not tag it at all. I'm just throwing that out there.
Very good. Wrap
Good?
it up. I'm very disappointed you said don't find a date on LinkedIn, but we could talk about that.
Yeah, listen, that's.
Thanks for all coming in, man. Let's go
Yeah.
get some lunch, eh? Good job, buddy.